Okay, Mr. Wilson, this is the presentation part. All right. Good afternoon, y'all. Thank you for coming to this class. As you're all state certified, either first responders or emergency medical technicians. This class is going to be on the emergency treatment of venomous snake bites in North Carolina. This class will only pertain to the species found in North Carolina. On the chart, you need to know who your enemy is or what you're dealing against. In North Carolina, there are 6 known venomous species in North Carolina. First one, the most popular or the most widespread, is the copperhead. Second one is the cottonmouth or water moccasin. The next 3 are rattlesnakes. There's different species of rattlesnakes. The eastern diamondback rattlesnake, the pygmy rattlesnake, the timber rattlesnake, and the other slide did not have the coral snake, but it is at the bottom on this slide. The coral snake is down at the bottom, not to be confused with the milk snake or scarlet king snake. The popular rhyme about a coral snake is red touch yellow, kill a fellow, red touch black, venom lack. It's kind of a little mnemonic to remember the stripes. In North Carolina, coral snakes are very rare, very small range. As you can tell, you really can't tell on the map, but the coral snakes have a very small range in North Carolina. They're, like I said, very rare. They're usually only come out at night. They like hiding, they're very shy. And also, when they bite, their teeth are so small, they actually have to, if they want to envenomate you, they have to actually chew your skin for their venom. But, that being said, the coral snake is closely related to the cobra as far as the type of venom and toxins that the coral snake possesses. So this is a snake that you do not want to mess with. Now going back to the other snakes, said the copperhead. Everybody pretty much know what a copperhead looks like with their Hershey's Kisses design on the side. They're normally orangey, brown, tan. As you can see at the bottom, their range is the entire state of North Carolina. All right, the cottonmouth, the water moccasin. They're real thick-bodied snakes, and they are very ornery. They do not like sharing their territory with anybody. And unfortunately, if you live in the western part of the state, or even the Piedmont, you really don't have to worry too much about cottonmouths. It's normally an eastern North Carolina region snake. I'm going to skip the eastern dialect just for a second. The pygmy rattlesnake is what it says. Very small snake, very small rattlesnake. No more between a foot to 2 feet at the most. Very tiny. They also have a very small range, usually around the southeastern corner of the state, around the coast, around Wilmington, Jacksonville, Havelock, New Bern, etc. The timber rattlesnake was at one time very scarce in North Carolina. However, it has rebounded tremendously. As you can see by the map at the bottom, they're pretty much all over the state except for right around the middle part, with one little exception, one little dot. I think it's like around Purcell County or Orange County. But yes, they are on the increase in numbers. The eastern diamondback rattlesnake. This is the most venomous and most dangerous snake in the entire United States. And lucky North Carolina, we get to host the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. Now this map, it shows it mainly around the southeastern part of the state as usual, around Wilmington, Jacksonville, etc. However, that map is wrong. The eastern diamondback rattlesnake is now pretty much about the same area as the moccasin now. It's covered up on the entire eastern part of the state, Outer Banks, all the way up to Virginia. And yes, the eastern diamondback rattlesnakes are as close to where we're at now, and we're in Nash County. Eastern diamondbacks are actually been reported in Edgecombe County, which is right next door, Wilson County, Halifax County, and of course, snakes do not know county lines. So, just be aware. And as stated before, the most dangerous snake in the United States is the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. Now, all of our rattlesnakes, copperheads, and water moccasins are classified as pit vipers, which means they have one type of venom, and it attacks the body a certain way. And luckily for North Carolina, that the anti-venom in all of our hospitals are the same for all the pit vipers, all the rattlesnakes, copperheads, and moccasins. It's one antivenom. Pretty lucky. However, when it comes to the coral snake, like I said, it's very rare, but if you're lucky enough to be bitten by this snake, you're in some trouble. Like I said, it's related closer to the cobras and crates and sea snakes with their kind of venom. It's a neurotoxic venom. It immediately goes for the nervous system. And of course, we all know in our EMT class and first responder class that your breathing is muscular. Okay? So, very important to watch out for this snake. Fast, early transport for this snake is vital. And of course, if you want another close-up with the eastern diamondback, it's a handsome fellow. And of course, probably one everybody most familiar with, the copperhead. Copperhead is responsible for the most bites in the state of North Carolina than any other poisonous or venomous snake. That's another thing, do not say poisonous. Poisonous is not correct, it's venomous. Snakes don't carry poison, they carry venom. Alright? And of course, the water moccasin showing its little telltale sign, you look in the mouth, cotton mouth. Just looks like a mouth full of cotton. That's also a snake you do not want to cross paths with. Okay, so on the emergency scene, as stressed through your classes you've already had, scene safety, personal safety is number one. You cannot help anybody if you're injured yourself. You have to look after yourself first. It's very important. Scene safety, personal safety, safety of others. Be aware of special emergency situations, such as, there's examples, hazardous materials and motor vehicle crashes. Motor vehicle crashes are pretty common. Hazardous material, not so much, but they are increasing. However, a special emergency situation would be a venomous snake bite. That's a special consideration. Luckily, they're not common in this state as far as having to call for an ambulance. Most people just drive to the hospital. However, if you're sitting around your firehouse or EMS station one day and the times go off to respond to a snake bite, what's your first thought? Well, your first thought should be, well, of course, other than acknowledge the call and respond, you should also already be considering what kind of dangers am I going to get into. Number one, where's the snake? Is the snake still there? Where's the patient located? Is it going to be hard to get to the patient? Are they in the middle of the woods, on a hiking trail, up a mountain, down a valley, or even in a boat? all these things you need to consider as first responders and emergency medical technicians in the profession. Of course, you got to ensure your own safety by evaluating the potential dangers. Well, of course, hello, there's a snake running around. You know, you don't want to be another victim. Wear proper gear. As you've been stressed before in your classes and through your T-SOPs, you always go through, you know, the first thing you always say in your T-SOPs, which is scene safety, PPE. It's a check off in your T-SOPs, and if you do not state those questions or those remarks, you fail for your entire scenario. That's how important it is. Wear proper gear. That being said, most first responders, when they respond on fire apparatus, they're wearing their turnout gear. Okay. EMS personnel, not so much. However, most agencies require EMS personnel to wear boots, you know, or some kind of protection on their feet and legs. Also, the uniforms and the clothing has gotten a lot thicker and more safe. Always do what you were trained to do. There's always train. There's never seems to be a break. I mean, it's what they call continuing ed for a reason. It's always being rehashed. And of course, summoning additional resources. Now, what would be one resource that you think that you would need if you're responding to a potential venomous snake bite? What's one resource that you definitely would need on scene, other than yourself? You would need law enforcement or animal control. Okay? Just in case the snake's still around, you do not want or not put yourself in any danger to try to handle or capture the snake, or else you might become another victim. Snakes have a nasty habit of biting more than once. So always go ahead. If I'm on a call, and personally I've been to 2 snake bites in my career, and first thing we always think about is going ahead and calling animal control. Or animal control can either safely capture the snake or eradicate the snake. Okay? Either way is a win for us. Okay? Not so much for the snake, but for us. Alright. When you arrive at the scene, you're not done. You still have to evaluate. This is what they call the scene size up, which you've been through in your class. The location. Where is the incident at? Is it right at the road? Is it inside a house, in somebody's yard? Or is it up a mountain, in the little woods, out in the field where you got to use other resources like 4-wheelers, ATVs to get to the patient? In a boat, out in the middle of a pond or a lake. Problems. Just listen to a few problems you could run into. Dangers. Dangers. A snake. Yeah, I'll say usually most people think you get bit by a snake, that's the only one around. Well, a lot of times it's not the only snake around. So that's why it's important to call for additional resources. Not to put other people in harm's way, but professionally trained people who know what they're doing to make this thing safe for you. It may sound bad, but as an emergency responder, if you have to pull up and park away and wait until the scene is cleared, you have to do that. I mean, it's bad that the patient is there, but you got to take care of yourself first. This way of thinking goes through any kind of incident, through house fires, structure fires, all the way down through motor vehicle collisions, et cetera, et cetera. If the scene is not safe, you do not go in until it is safe. Makes sense. Like I said a while ago, you can't help nobody if you need help yourself. Okay? Of course, just a few other behaviors of victims or bystanders. The 2 snake bites I've been on, unfortunately, one of them was a deceased person, and the other one didn't even know they got it. So it can vary. I will rehash on the story. The one I had that was actually a cardiac arrest from a snake bite. But, and also at the scene, the need for additional resources, as we've already discussed. Just a quick little story about the snake bite. When I first started my career 30-some years ago, we had a call up at Lake Gaston. A person just collapsed on a wood pile. He was out cutting wood and collapsed on a wood pile. So we get there, bear in mind this was 30 years ago. The scene safety part hadn't really been put into the mindset for EMS yet. So me and my partner and the fire department got there, first responders. We get to the patient, rolled him over, and as soon as we rolled him over, he had collapsed on an entire bed of water moccasins.
Oh, wow.
And he had been bitten numerous times.
Oh.
And unfortunately, he had what they call an anaphylactic reaction to a snake bite. So, 20-minute response time to the scene. Nearest hospital was 40 minutes away. And at the time, we were a basic level truck, which is what y'all would be since y'all were EMTs. It was just CPR all the way to the hospital. Of course, they tried everything they could at the hospital, and everything, but he did not make it. But that was a very rare instance. But there again, we could have been, you know, they would have had more than that one patient to worry about. So EMS has come a long way since those days. All right, so guidelines for the initial snake bite care. After the scene is cleared, I repeat, after the scene is cleared, you can go in. Take the victim to medical care immediately. Now some of these are a little outdated. This says wash the wound if possible. Most teachings now say do not touch the wound. You could, if you try to squeeze water on it, you could force contamination of bacteria back into the bite site. Immobilize the affected part. Well, snake venom is very tricky. It all depends on how deep the snake bite was and where those fangs stop injecting. But most venom goes to what they call the lymphatic system, which is the fatty tissues and everything right up with the blood vessels. That's how most snake venom progresses. So immobilizing the affected part keeps the patient from moving so much. You minimize the victim's movement, you slow down the spread of the venom. Makes sense, right? You keep the affected part lower than the heart. That's just general. If you have something raised above the heart, it's coming straight down. Gravity is in your favor. It just speeds it along. Whereas it's below the heart, it's fighting gravity, and it's slower to get to the heart. Summon more advanced medical personnel. There again, since y'all are all basics, go ahead and call for your ALS or advanced life support teams in the area if they're available. A lot of times they're not available, but if they are available. And the last one, do not even consider that one because I have not seen those, and this has got to be in other states, but we do not have commercial suction kits. And also remember what I was telling y'all, the old trick used to be cut through the puncture site and suck the blood out, or suck the venom out. No, that's about the same principle. A lot of do nots in the snake bite care. Do not apply ice. Do not cut the wound. Do not apply a tourniquet. Why would you not apply a tourniquet? It seemed like to me a tourniquet would slow the blood, right? A tourniquet, if properly done, doesn't only slow the blood, it stops it. Okay? You do not want any more tissue damage or nerve damage or any damage more than the venom's going to cause. There's been concluded time and time again that application of a real tourniquet on a snake bite actually worsens the snake bite or the venom's effect. And do not use electric shock. Okay. Good. First aid care for snake bites. Of course, there's 3 different sections. The non-poisonous snake bite, which we're not covering today, but it's basically the same thing. Clean it with soap and water. Sure, okay. Cover with a dry sterile dressing and seek medical advice. That's basically the same thing you do for a dog bite or a cat bite. However, for the pit viper bite, which is the rattlesnakes, the cottonmouth, and the copperhead, you move the victim away from the snake, but they will bite more than once. And they can also strike over half their body length. More times than not, the patient has already moved themselves away from the snake. Keep the victim calm and quiet, and if possible, the victim should not walk. Okay, but some instances they have to walk, but if they're building a leg, a lot of times you have to end up carrying them out. But you don't want them, you don't want them to exert themselves and force the heart to beat faster, and of course do that, and venom circulates faster. You clean the bite, of course we've already pretty much said don't do that. Splint the affected extremity, seek medical attention immediately. Anti-venom is available only in the hospitals, and of course anti-venom cannot be administered in the field. Paramedics cannot administer anti-venom. And also, for any venomous snake bite, it must be administered within 4 hours. I told you coral snakes are really bad because you see they got more information on coral snake than it does pit viper. Coral snake, same thing, except for a coral snake you want to wrap not just part of the extremity, the entire extremity, and you also want to put pressure on it. Not as much as the tourniquet, but just enough where you can fit your fingers under it, but it slows the spread of the venom. Also, after you do that, always check, make sure you got distal pulse, whether it's your arms or your legs. Always make sure your patient's still alert, they're conscious, they're breathing, and have a pulse, always, okay? Of course, just kind of a repeat, first aid, calm and reassure the victim. Always remove anything that would constrict tight clothing, watches, or rings. Don't try to catch and kill the snake, because if you try to do that, usually a second bite is heading your way. Don't cut the fang marks and suck out with your mouth. There's that venom extractor again. I do not know anything about that. This says you may use a constriction band, but no tourniquet. Constriction band is a band you can put on, but it's not as tight as a tourniquet. Okay? A tourniquet is a last-ditch, life-saving effort to stop bleeding. Okay? Of course, don't use ice or electric shock. Transport ASAP to the hospital. ASAP means as soon as possible. Always let the hospital know as soon as possible what kind of snake you're dealing with. Because sometimes, especially in our area, Nash General has anti-venom, so does weight. But if you have a coral snake, which you're more likely will not have here, but if you did, then you have to get anti-venom from somewhere else. Has to be brought in. Pit viper venom, just like I said, different kind of venom. It's a mixture of enzymes and peptides. Its purpose is to immobilize and pre-digest prey. Defense and secondary. Says about everything it contains. 25% of your bites are dry bites, which means they'll tag you, they'll puncture the skin, but they won't inject venom. 25% are minimal bites or very little venom, but about 50% of them will be a really good dose of venom. Okay? The same anti-venom is used for all U.S. pit vipers, rattlesnakes, copperheads, and cottonmouths. And it's very lucky. However, the coral snake, there again, it's a different kind of venom. It attacks the neurological system. And they're very tricky because the bite is so small, you won't even realize it. You've been bitten. It doesn't have any pain much. But it takes a lot of vials of antivenom. Sometimes 10 plus vials of antivenom for a coral snake. And just a tidbit of information. Coral snake, there's only one place in the United States that makes the venom for anti-venom for coral snake. They went out of business. So they have another company that's starting up, but right now the anti-venom for coral snake is very rare to find. That's in Florida. So there in mind, people down around the Wilmington area, Fayetteville, south of Fayetteville, they gotta consider that right away. They need to go ahead and let somebody know they got to get that venom up here. So this is your North Carolina State Office of EMS protocol for bites and venomations. This covers the spider bites, wasps and all that, mammal bites. So let's go straight down the line to the snake bites. Same thing we've gone over. General wound care, immobilize the injury. If you happen to look out and catch an ALS provider, advanced EMT or a paramedic, they can start an IV. Go ahead and get an IV access. So all they got to do when they get to the hospital, IV's already established, they can go straight to the antivenom. Okay? But other than that, it's your ABCs, it's your basic life support skills. Consciousness, airway, breathing, circulation. And of course, you can consider pain control, stuff like that, but that is secondary to the main function is to get the patient to the hospital as fast as possible. So, person calls 911, most of the time they don't know what kind of snake with them. So that's when, you have to assume the worst, hope for the best. Try to get a description of the snake. This person's been bitten on the arm. You see they're removing the tight-fitted clothing, cutting it off, removing a watch band. Also rings. He's been bitten at the very top of the hand on the knuckle. And of course, splint immobilized the whole arm, or most of the arm. So, it's not a lot of advanced stuff for a snake bite unless the patient goes into respiratory arrest or stuff like that, where you got to do advanced airway procedures on. But for the most part, snake bites are generally a basic skill. Just recap right quick. What's the most important thing you need to worry about is your safety, scene safety. You cannot help anybody if you need help yourself. You cannot rehash that enough. When you go through your state TSOP exams, if you miss visualizing those statements, you fail. It doesn't matter if you do perfect on your treatment, your skills, etc. You fail. That's just the way it is. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to end the presentation a little funny. This is just it ain't no rattlesnake, Jake. You got one of them maraca players down your bag, and he's probably more scared than you are. You got a rattlesnake in a sleeping bag. But anyway, so thank you very much for coming out for this class. We'll be followed by a hands-on presentation, a TSOP, if you will. Just going over your skill sets, learning how to keep your scene safe, treating a patient, keeping them calm, and just doing what you do day in, day out. And because first responders and EMTs are a valued commodity in the community and are a vital asset to the EMS system as a whole. Without y'all, we do not function. So thank you again for coming out. And if you have any questions, hold on until we get to the end. Okay. Let's see, I've got another minute. Okay, any questions? Please, somebody ask a question. Just ask a question.
What's with the electric shock?
That's something I really do not know. That's news to me. Well, at that point, if they went to cardiac arrest, the venom ain't gonna hurt them. I mean, it's hurting them, but you need to get the heart started back. So.
I think the heart's a little more important.
Chasing people on the snake bite side?
Yeah.
Well, you got
So, but okay, well, like North Carolina is also very special because we have a lot of people now who like to keep venomous snakes as pets. Not only locals, but also exotics from other countries. We have a documented case of a person in Raleigh, North Carolina, who likes to keep exotic venomous pets. And not only did one of them escape and made the news about 2 years ago, remember the zebra cobra that got loose in North Raleigh?
Yeah.
Well, this same gentleman, about 3 years before this incident, he kept a green mamba snake from Africa. And this dude mishandled this snake, and the green mamba bit him. The green mamba is not indigenous to North America, let alone North Carolina.
Right.
If you know, the green mamba's cousin, the black mamba, is rated as one of the most deadliest snakes in the entire world. The green mamba is right behind the black mamba. EMS was not called for this call. His parents drove him to the hospital, drove him to Rex Hospital, and Rex had to get anti-venom from a zoo in South Carolina for the anti-venom because, of course, mambas are not here.
Yeah.
So, if that zoo did not have the anti-venom in South Carolina, there's another place in Florida, but there again, it's greater distance, more time
Like 4
for the
hours.
anti-venom to get here.
Yeah.
And we learned that anti-venom does its best work as soon as it gets it, usually within the first 4 hours.
Wow.
So, but anyway, he lived, so he may have learned his lesson, he may not have. Obviously, he didn't because he kept another zebra coat. But anyway, so anyway, again, thank you so much, appreciate it, and thank y'all for helping with this class.